All right, we are back with the NBL Supercoach sessions, and we started off with a massive start with no sound on our
Mm.
intro song,
It's
but
going good for us today. We're missing
going,
the vital length of Josh Higgins. It's caused a
yeah.
ruckus.
He said that he's so shit at Supercoach now that he doesn't want to participate in these shows anymore. So he's left it over to the two Supercoach geniuses in myself and Jez to to carry the
Yeah,
load.
which is funny because this is the first week I think ever that he actually beat me. So it's a shame that he's hanging up his boots already.
He is in the chat though on YouTube Live, which is good to see. He's asking why
Okay.
hasn't the stream started? What's going on, boys? So he's already given it to us from a
Well,
distance.
why isn't he sitting here live zooming in on his phone? Fucking girly pants.
Yeah, he reckons he's had the best week. But anyway, it is Supercoach sessions, and for those of you that have followed Supercoach the whole time and haven't seen me, my name's Ryan. I am normally behind the buttons, doing all the titles and whatnot in the background while these boys shoot the shit about Supercoach. But jumping in today with my subpar Supercoach knowledge to try and back up Jez in this round 11 preview,
Mm.
moreover. Uh,
Yes.
and Jez, hopefully you can help me steer through or navigate this Supercoach world.
Well, I was hoping you were going to steer me, mate. We need this other side angle because it's been going pretty bad for me the last few weeks. But I feel like I don't know. I may be able to give some tips this week and have some quality content without being affected by Josh and all his garbage.
Well, hopefully you can help me because I'm in a pretty bad spot right now. I need all the help I can get to get out of the doldrums of these kind of, I don't even know where I am, a couple of thousand places down. But let's recap round 10.
Mm.
Start off with you, mate. A pretty good score, not something maybe you didn't really expect yourself to have.
No, but I think talking on last week's show, I was expecting to have a little bit of a quiet week this week. It could have been better than it was. Obviously, it got affected by I think like most super coaches who held on to Tyrell Harrison, and then he had a big zero this week because he I don't know had the flu or something I believe, or was it a back injury? Huh, doesn't matter. He got a zero anyway, a big duck egg, which affected most of us. And then there was, captain's choice. I was playing the spy game and saw that Josh had Bryce Cotton as his captain. So I took PJC just to play something a little bit different. And then Josh, I think, jumped on to the PJC bandwagon because we were actually playing each other in our private league. And he knew he had a bit more depth than me. So yeah, and what Cotton went for 100
Yeah.
this week, but PJC wasn't so far behind anyway. Scored 86, so it still worked out okay. Scored 433. I did go down 180 places, but I really feel like my team is in good shape heading into this second half of the season, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But Ryan, what happens with you, mate? I remember we were doing some stress late pressure decision making time right before the first tip off on Thursday, and you decided to not put Bryce Cotton in your team. What were you
Yeah. So,
thinking? Please
uh,
explain.
mate, I've had a rough time with Supercoach. I somehow managed to cancel my Supercoach Gold subscription a month ago, which ran out this prior week, and I hadn't done any trades. And there was like, what was it, like 6 minutes to go when I called
Mm,
you.
yeah.
I was like, I got to do trades, and I already had brought in Bateman with a bit of cash because I felt that I couldn't get Bryce Cotton in with the price. But then when we
Yeah.
were mucking around, I could bring in Cotton. I ended up trading out Henschel, I think, and Matt Hurt. Brought in Bateman and I don't know, some other dickhead that didn't score me any points, and yeah, it was a catastrophe. I was betting because of the situation I was in, and I'm like now I'm in the 3,000s. I went down to 3,531, but I was 2,000 something. I felt I need to make a concerted kind of change to do something different to
Mm,
the majority, and that was Bryce Cotton, and he the second game that he played last week, he had a pretty low score. So I was like just hoping, oh, sorry, the week before against Brisbane there, I was just hoping that he was going to bomb and that maybe I could make up some ground on people that were going, essentially all in on Cotton. But that really blew up in my face, not only just with the Cotton pick, but trying to get the cash out of Bateman. He only scored 12 points. So I effectively got that double-ended shaft and was got shafted from both ends, unfortunately. So down at 3,531. I still have one boost left, and I don't think it's completely dead for me, but it's going to take some. I'm going to have to essentially be potting my whole way through this next kind of period to try and just get some outside chances, something to push me up the standings.
Yeah, it's a really sort of interesting spot now, I think, where you've got to start taking risks if you want to fight it out at the end. It's sort of the time now, I believe, if you are sort of in a situation like you're in and you're sitting, say, around 3,000 or whatever, you need to do something, and you need a whole lot of Supercoach luck if you're going to move up and sort of be in that top 1,000 mark and get in that sort of top 5%. So you can at least have a chance of a bit of bragging rights against your mates, I think. But you got to take risks, and the risk there obviously is that it goes absolutely the wrong way, like it maybe did for you last week, and you drop even further down the rankings. But you got to be in it to win it.
That's it. And I started, as Josh alluded to here in the chat, I started so strong. I think, in the top, I don't know, a couple of hundred after the first round. And even the second round, I was still very, very high up, but continually gotten worse for me as the season has rolled around. But there were some good performances, I think, out of round 10, apart from Cotton. And one thing that I did feel was a pretty good choice from my end was holding on to Lockie Ulbrich. He scored 43. And, for a player of his caliber, getting the minutes he's been getting and the kind of price he's around. So I can't obviously see any break-evens or any price changes now because my gold still hasn't been reinstated, but that'll hopefully give me a bit more of a platform to make some trades this week to hopefully better my position.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that brought in Xavier Cooks this week, and he still scored all right. Like, I think in a normal week, if you score 60, 65, I think you're pretty sort of happy. But when you compare that to maybe taking in Parker Jackson Cartwright or Bryce Cotton, it's a different story. And then there was the big bomb in Sydney. If anyone was smart enough out there to bring in Cam Oliver, he actually scored 91 points. He had an absolute blinder of a weekend, completely sort of evenly spread over his two matches there, and just bringing it up now so we can get the breakdown of those two matches. And it was, he scored 44 against Cairns and then 47 against Melbourne. So exactly what you want from a guy that's on a double game week. But I think most people were bringing in Xavier Cooks instead this week. Yeah. So if you're smart enough to take Cam, good old Space Cam, looking like he is starting to become that MVP caliber guy that Josh thought he was going to be at the start of the year, fighting for it. But there's still 15 games left, 15 games left. So you just never know what happens in the back end of the season. Your bet's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, $50 on NBL first team or whatever the bet was.
Yeah, be careful. He might end up sixth man of the year. Yeah, but doesn't make you on first team though, does it?
No.
Just sixth. If you're not first, you're last.
Exactly. Jez, there is now we're heading into a pretty intensive scheduling, not season because it's halfway through the season, but a period for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think we as Supercoach nerds need to talk about because I'm struggling to kind of wrap my head around, all right, where and when am I making these trades? Which players from which teams am I getting in? And how do I avoid not having too many players from the same team? If we start with this week, we have six teams on double game weeks. Yeah. How are you thinking around the scheduling just for this week? And then once you've spoken about that going forward?
Well, like with the way that my team is at the moment, which I'll reveal a little bit later. I'm doing something maybe a little bit crazy that you probably shouldn't do, but which could help boost me because I'm taking one of these risks to try and get into this top echelon of super coaches. But like the way you're sort of looking at it, obviously Brisbane go on an 8 double game week run from now. But it's like you said, you're sort of getting stuck with having, say, Keandre Cook, James Bateman, Tyrell Harrison. Then we brought in Rocco Zikarsky to make money, and all of a sudden you can have like half your team is Brisbane players, but they're not really scoring a lot at the moment. So you sort of got to pick and choose who you actually want in there because they're sort of just they could, in theory, be just lock and leave. They're there. You move them maybe in and out of your starting lineup, depending on who's on double game weeks and what you're looking at from round to round. But unfortunately, there's no real consistency coming out of Brisbane. So it puts you in a really sort of a tough spot. And then we've got, some, say New Zealand have still got, including this week, they've got 3 double game weeks in a row. I'm sort of happy, though, when it comes to Perth players, that Perth are going on a little bit of a break now. They have a double game week this week, but then have 4 single game weeks. So we can start getting, pretty much cleaning out anybody, I think, besides Bryce Cotton when it comes to Perth Wildcats players, because no one's really sort of given you that top amount of points, and it's been sort of a little bit of inconsistency with anybody else besides Bryce. Even Christian Doolittle, who was doing really, really strong at the start, has started to drop back and be not see as much or not be as involved. He was getting rebounds and assists along with sort of around 10, 15 points a game. So in scoring. So I think you can sort of wipe all of them out, and then things start to get a little bit tactical because we mentioned in the Beyond the Buzzer show that's going to be released tomorrow. When it comes to Adelaide, they go into a really, really big period here where they've got 7 double game weeks in the next 9 rounds. So, and there's obviously a lot of talent on there. I carried Montrezl Harrell until this suspension period. In my head, I'm planning to get him back straight away because they have a single next week, and then they go on they have 2 doubles and then a single, and then they go on another stretch of doubles while everybody has doubles. So, but Harrell is the type of guy that I think you can certainly have in your team on a single game week because he's averaging around sort of that 40-point mark and has a high ceiling. So you can get some really big scores out of him. And then you've got like the likes of Kendrick Davis that I think a lot of people carried for a long period there. So it does really get interesting moving into this next period. And then you've got 2 weeks with Melbourne United. Obviously, Chris Goulding injured, so takes that sort of, I don't know, it almost helps because I sort of looked at him this week. I was like, shit, I could probably bring him in. But now that he's going to be out for the next couple of rounds, we believe.
Round 13 expected to come back, according to Supercoach.
Yeah, and then that's right when they go on a few rounds of single game weeks. They have 3 single game weeks from 13 to 15, and then they have a couple more doubles. So that takes him out of the question. But you've got, Jack White, Dellavedova, that can definitely feature in a lot of teams, I believe. So
you're looking maybe to not get hung up and not have any players in your team or not focus solely on guys from Sydney, Southeast Melbourne, Tassie, Illawarra, and even to an extent Cairns, because they're kind of, their double game weeks are a little bit kind of dotted around, and they're single double game weeks, not multiple doubles in a row. So is the thought, try and avoid those players and build up your doubles?
Look, for me personally, and like I said, I'll mention, and you'll see what I'm doing this week. I think it depends how much cash you've got, and how set your team is. What I'm looking to do personally right now with all of these, just this patch now from say round 11 to it's pretty much round 15. before everybody goes on double game weeks in that last 5 rounds. I'm looking to sort of set myself with, you've got to have a couple of Brisbane players because you can just leave them in there. At the moment, you've got to have a couple of New Zealand players because they're also on a long stretch of double game weeks. Because then even if they're just on your bench and you've got some good quality there, you can just put them in and just hope that they tick over points and have some games and you get a bit of luck on your side. But I'm going to start working now because I feel that I do have, I got a fair bit of cash, I feel. Always going to want more. But what I'm then looking to do is maybe make some of these tactical trades when you know teams are going to go on a run of a couple of double game weeks in a row. But then, if you want a big player that's only on a 1 week of double game weeks, you can almost start using this tactic of doing just interchangeable players to make sure that you've got the best player in that position that you can afford for that week. Right. So that's sort of how I'm looking to play, and you'll see I've done that even this week because, I now and I also have a boost. So once it comes to one of these tougher weeks, then maybe I can use that boost to reset my team for that run home, say from round 18, 19 and 20, where things start to get a little bit more difficult again with some teams going off this big stretch of doubles to singles. But I think you can start doing that now if you have that base of New Zealand players and Brisbane players at the moment, and then interchanging out players like this week from Melbourne that go on a 2-week stretch. And then I think even after Melbourne's stretch, Illawarra then go on a 5-game stretch of doubles. So if you've got Melbourne players, you can almost do direct swaps from Melbourne players to your Illawarra players or, different tactics like that. So you make sure that you're having the most amount of double game week players in your team. Otherwise, you've got guns that are on singles.
Let's, I've just decided kind of in the heat of the moment here, we'll switch things up a bit. We're going to go into buy, hold, sell or some sort of version of that. But I want to bring in the teams so that we can kind of speak specifically to them. Let's bring in your team here first.
Yeah.
For those of you that are watching via Instagram, sorry, go to YouTube because I haven't prepared the graphic. So Jez's team is up on the screen now. For those of you that are watching and able to watch, if you're driving a car, then don't look, just listen. Jez, exactly. Run us through your team and your thoughts around the trades and also maybe who you've been looking at but haven't been able to bring in.
All right. Let's start off. My guards, obviously, I think with most people besides you, Ryan, have Bryce Cotton and Parker Jackson Cartwright as their starting guards, both on double game weeks this week. Then I, made that call of carrying Tyrell Harrison. Now, still waiting to see if he's going to play this week or not. So that may affect the trade concept of my team this week if he ends up out. Because I might trade him out because I need to have a starting centre. And the only starting centre then would have to be Zakarski. I want to be carrying 10 players that are scoring this week. Then in my forwards, I have Jack White and Sam Wardenberg. I'll discuss that later. I'll run through my bench real quick. Still carrying Ben Henschel. He's been doing all right, even in the return of Bryce Cotton. Scored 45 on a double game week last week, which is okay, I think. Sam Menenga still there. The big plus for Sam Menenga this week, for those that have carried him through this period, is that Taco Fall injured and Pinot also got injured. So he's really the only big left in New Zealand. Have sort of Max Darling that can maybe come in and play forward there, but he's not the same type centre, I guess, for New Zealand. So I think we could see some good scores from Menenga because he could be getting some really, really top minutes. Then I have Rocco Zakarski still earning cash because, he had a negative break even last week and then he's still expected to earn a bit of cash this week, which is good if he, especially if he repeats the 26-point effort that he did last week. And then Keandre Cook also can explode. on a double game week. And then I have Angus Glover, just trying to pick up exactly what his break even was. But I believe still that if he's still scoring at the rate that he's been scoring for Southeast Melbourne, he'll earn a bit of cash. And he's my only single game week player. And then they have a double game week next week. So also good to carry into round 12. So that's the makeup of my team. What I did for trades this week was I traded out. Good question. I traded out Pinder, and I also traded out Almanza. So 2 Perth players left my team this week, and I brought in Jack White and Sam Wardenberg. So idea, obviously, Jack White goes now on 2 double game weeks. So I sort of have this connection with Jack White because I had him at the start, carried him, and then I traded him out one week, I think, when maybe he was expected to be injured or something, and then couldn't get him back in my team, and he just hurt me. It was when he went on his big run of like 40-point scores. So I was like, okay, well, I got to have Jack White in there. I think, he's obviously one of the top scorers, so I think definitely looking to carry him. Possibly he could be in my team for the rest of the season until those last couple of 3 rounds when Melbourne go on single game weeks. But we'll see what happens there because they do have a stretch of 3 singles. But definitely in there for the next 2 weeks. And then, my sort of tactical trade this week that maybe some people will question is bringing in Sam Wardenberg, because Cairns only have the single week of double game week this week. And then they do go on a 2-game stretch of singles, another double, a single, and then they go on the stretch of doubles with everybody else. But I figure I wanted another strong forward, another strong starting player that's on a double game week. And Sam Wardenberg has the highest average in the centre forward position of a player that I don't have that is on a double game week this week. And I'll be looking to make some sort of trade next week to upgrade him then to likely to Montrezl Harrell.
Will you have the cash to do that trade directly, or are you going to have to downgrade another player?
It might be a period over 2 weeks. I'm going to have to downgrade because I only have 89,000 in the bank, and he's worth 287. What is Montrezl Harrell
400 something
worth? He is 438. So I'll need to skim some cash from somewhere else, but that could easily come, I think, from, depending on if there's any sort of cheapie or something that comes out of New Zealand or a team that might be struggling. You could definitely downgrade from Ben Henschel, who is worth 230. So I could make some cash there. I'll be holding Angus Glover. It could be even a decision to get rid of Tyrell Harrison, depending on sort of what happens with that rotation, or it might be even time to get rid of Rocco, but he's probably not going to earn me enough cash. So this could also be in that tactic of working it over 2 weeks to make sure that I have Montrezl Harrell by the time Adelaide go on their next double game week, because they have a single in round 12. So it could be as simple as that, depending on how much you want to disrupt your team. But I'm certainly now not really thinking so much about earning any more cash. I'm all about just trying to put on the best team that I can afford that's going to score me the most amount of points. That's sort of where I'm at now in my headspace.
A lot of people, the ones that have been writing in the comments at least, there's chat here about Jack White and bringing him into the fold. Is it a necessary trade? Does everybody need? Is it similar, to Bryce Cotton last week, that if you don't get on Jack White now, you might miss the boat, or the amount of points that he's going to contribute to your team is something that you need to have?
I think he's just it's a good stability trade. It's not like he has, if we go to total points or average, Jack White's ranked 6th in average at 33.1 points. I think with the double game week, it's nice to just be able to put him in there, and then you just can sort of forget about that for the next 2 weeks. And then, like I said, he is one of these in the top echelon of players that you can pretty much carry through now. Even if you had to hold him for those 3 weeks while they're on their single, if you have the cash to be able to have another gun in your starting forward position, then I think you can do that. Like ultimately, that's sort of, if I sort of look at it now, I'm like, okay, it might be a little bit tough if I'm during that 3-week period, I might need to trade Jack White out because you want to have two absolute guns in that forward position where you're earning double or where you're earning points. So I don't think it's make or break to have Jack White, but I think it's definitely a solid choice that you can sleep well at night if you have him in there.
What do you think about Kendrick Davis? He's probably going to come back in this second game against Perth and turn it up. But is it worth waiting and seeing the difference when Montrezl Harrell isn't there? Or is that not worth it because he's going to be back next week? Like, how do you prepare and think about that? And are you can you bring him in with PJC, Bryce Cotton, and Condre Cook in your team?
Yeah, it's hard if you've got the cash, but it's a lot of cash to have on your bench.
Because you're not starting him over Cotton and PJC, right?
Definitely not this week because they're both on doubles. But next week Cotton goes on a single, so it could be a time. But then Adelaide's also on a single, so it could be a trade that you look at. I think in round 13, but I don't know if you bring him in any earlier than that, because it's almost like a wasted trade because you're not taking out Parker Jackson Cartwright while he's on this double stretch. Adelaide also on a single. He's in theory, Kendrick Davis is on a single game week this week and a single game week next week. So I wouldn't be even considering it until round 13 when they go on 2 weeks of doubles.
Josh is saying that DJ Vasiljevic is out, so that could also affect Davis's production.
There you go. Yeah, he was struggling, I think, with a hamstring or quad cork in their game. Their last game was it again? Yeah, against Tassie. So,
was there anybody in your team, Jez, that you kind of played with the trade like, I can't get there with this player, or it doesn't fit the narrative?
No, not really this week. I don't think it's pretty sort of. I got the trades that I wanted to get. The only sort of curveball that's going to come in is what happens if Tyrell Harrison is out. See if Josh has got any inside info in the chat on Tyrell Harrison, because if that happens, I think it's just a matter of making this horrible decision of, all right, do you keep Almanzo or do you keep Keanu Pinder, and who's going to score most? Because Pinder's also carrying an injury. He might not even be playing this week. He didn't play in the second game for Perth.
Something around illness that I read on the injury report.
So, but you never know. He might, gives him an excuse to be inconsistent, I guess, when he comes back anyway. So I'd probably take the cash of Pinder and still make the exact same trades that I have made, but move Almanza or Pinder into centres, and then still bring in Wardenberg and Jack White.
All right, let's look at my train wreck of a team. I made some trades just prior to going on air, and I'm not used to making trades this early in the week. I normally do it with 6 minutes to go before the lockout.
Well, maybe you'll do all right. You'll make some more calculated decisions. I'm quite surprised, such a stats nerd like yourself. But I guess when you think about your whole lifestyle, you're quite the last minute type of.
I'm a last minute
type of guy.
I brought in Bryce Cotton to my guards, so a week late, but better late than never. So I have him and PJC. I haven't touched my captains. I don't even know what that is.
We'll get into that in Darke's doubles, buddy.
Yeah, and Bateman on the bench. Now, Bateman, obviously, I brought him in purely for cash to be able to possibly even upgrade this week or next week to another player. His break-even was it was immensely low. There was a lot of cash to gain there, but
I think he was minus 15 or something.
Yeah,
if I remember
to
correctly.
back up that what was it, 51 points with scoring with 12 Supercoach points the week after is it's disappointing, Mr. Bateman.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
Went up 19k, 19 and a half. 19K he went up last week.
I think I was expecting 30 when I looked at that break even. Lockie Aldrich is still in my team. If I want to get him out, then I need to have to use my boost. Probably won't. I don't know if I start him over Rocco. Like, it really depends. Rocco is there because I needed another double guy to generate some cash. Whether or not I think he's going to score more than Lockie on a double
Did you
game
bring
week.
Rocco in this week?
No, last weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lockie and Rocco in my centres. My forwards, I brought in Jack White for Keanu Pinder. Doolittle remains, and then again some rough kind of luck that I haven't been able to get rid of Higgins Tischer from Cairns since I brought him in before anyone, and I got that massive price rise 2 weeks in a row, and then I couldn't get him out, and he's had a couple of DMPs since then, since Tarrant Armstrong has returned. Kareem Lopez, same deal. He from the FIBA break was injured, didn't play in the first of their double game week. I don't know how it's gone since then, but he's just wasting space now and costing me money on my.
He scored 20. He scored 27 in that second game. So then I think maybe with their injury problems, it could be definitely a guy that generates some points this week, because we could see his minutes go right up.
Well, I hope so, because I'm not trading out a guy on a double game week.
No.
Considering the other guys I have on my team that I would probably also like to trade out. But 27 grand left, and I don't have, obviously, the Supercoach Gold active, so I don't know what my projection is. But I still think I'm probably going to have to need to use my boost this week to make some more changes and give myself a bit better of a chance to score more points.
But, I don't know, when I look at your team, the only question mark, obviously, Illawarra on a single game week. But otherwise, and then you've got Higgins, Tischer, who's not expected to play.
No, so maybe it's trading out Higgins, Tischer, putting Aldrich to my bench forward and bringing another centre. Maybe
how much cash you got? 27.
No, maybe not.
It's
180.
Yeah.
Or 170, sorry. It's not leaving me much to play with. But, yeah, it is a bit of a train wreck.
You're used to that, though, aren't you, pal? Not having much to play with, eh?
Well, I think that's what I use my magic to the best of my abilities.
Yeah. There's definitely a couple of people that you could probably bring in. You don't have the flexibility of bringing in a guard. I was just trying to have a little look, maybe somewhere where you can make a little bit of cash. But obviously Owen Foxwell had an absolute monster of a game for Southeast Melbourne, and they're on a double game week next week. But he is only a guard, and none of your guards are substitutable anywhere, unfortunately for you.
No,
that's probably a big tough. Yeah, a lot of your players now are only stuck in their specific positions. You don't have a lot of flexibility in your team at all, besides what Lockie Aldrich is your only dual position player. Yeah. Makes things tough.
The two I've traded out, obviously Pinder, that could switch between forwards and centres, and I traded out Chris Goulding, who I had through this whole period of him heating up. So I made some good cash on Goulding, but I'm forced to trade him out because he's injured and not scoring any points, and I'm also forced to trade out Pinder. So I'm really kind of stuck, and this is just a consequence of my own actions, Jeremy.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody to blame but yourself, Ryan.
Exactly. A good tip here in the comments: Bateman down to Armstrong could be a good tip. Let's see.
Absolutely. Because Bateman, I was just in there. He's got a pretty wild break even. I think it was like 65 or 68 or something. Very, very achievable on a double game week. But
not if you're scoring 12 points.
Not if you're scoring 12 points. So they got an interesting draw as well this week. So
I'm interested to have a quick discussion about my situation, which I think, here it's easy for me to maybe think, okay, it's all over, time to give up Supercoach, start thinking about Big Bash or start preparing for NRL and AFL. But I'm not totally out of it. But what would I need to do to
Score points.
make a charge? What's my mindset need? What does it need to be, or how do I need to focus my energy to try and regain some ground?
Yeah, like I said, score points. You need to score points. If you're going to make a charge, you got to be able to score points.
Stop thinking about trying to generate cash and just focus on points.
But that's like the short term. But maybe it's I don't know how much cash you have, and how it is incomparable to even myself, and how we find that information super quick.
But okay, my team value it went down last week, so it's 2,688,000, down from 2.8 last week or the week before.
Okay, so I have 2,758,000.
So not a big difference.
Not a big difference, and I think Josh was around the same as well, if I recall correctly. Last week, I think I had a little bit more cash than him, and he was the one hunting for cash at the start of the year. So I think you've got to maybe, I don't know, when it comes to the back end of the season, you've got to be able to try and have all the guns in your team. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind anyway. So if you are on that lower part of total team value, maybe it is worth trying to make a little bit of cash and take the hit over the next couple of weeks, and then make sure that you've got all these big gun players and an ability to take some risks. Because you can't just have the same players that everybody else has in your team, because then you're never going to get a score that's going to make you better than the top, say, 1,000 players. So you've got to find some way to take some calculated risks, not 6 minutes before the lockout starts. But that's what I'd be sort of looking to do. Maybe if it feels like a week where you're feeling a little bit hopeless and you don't have a team that's going to be able to compete, maybe then you pick some weeks maybe that are going to be difficult for everybody, and go, okay, those weeks I'm going to try and really focus on earning some cash so I can afford some of these other big time players, and then maybe put your faith in maybe not these top 6. You're going to have to take maybe some players that are, from ranked 6th to 10th, and have them in your team and hope that they start outscoring the top guys. But I think it's really, really tough. I think definitely like Cotton and Jackson Cartwright, I'm not sure if you can afford not to have them, especially when they're on double game weeks, because they can just end your season right there, almost like what it did last week with you falling so far behind because you didn't have the 100 points from Cotton. But I think when it comes to like we've said, it's been sort of, there's no one that's really been dominating heavily in the forwards consistently and the centers. So maybe that's somewhere where you can pick up some extra points by just getting a bit of luck on your side.
There's some discussion in the comments here around what I should do with my bench. I'm kind of tossing up whether I should sacrifice a little bit of bench points because they're comparatively, lower effect on my overall score, to make sure that I have the right pieces to play with moving forwards, and maybe a little bit of cash generation to be able to switch out and look maybe 3 weeks ahead. Yeah. Maybe it is now getting rid of. There's no point in having 3 Brisbane players on my bench. That if they're not all generating big sums of money that I will then use to upgrade or be able to switch into my starting team. I mean, I'm not going to put Bateman or Cook in front of PJC or Cotton, and then when I trade Cotton out next week, there's probably another guard that's going to score more points than both Cook or Bateman. So are they going to be in my starting team? Are they worth being there?
Yeah, I think one of them. I think you keep one, and that's up to you to decide. I think we said that Keandre Cook should have a more all-rounded game, and at least his low isn't as low as Bateman's low. His low isn't as low as Bateman's low. How many lows in a sentence?
How low can you go?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, 12's pretty low for a guy that's 300k. So Yeah, I definitely agree with the fan comments there. Definitely look to remove one of those guys and generate some cash and find your week to attack. Maybe it's that, like, you look at, I don't know, I'm having a little look at the schedulizer, which you can still find in our Supercoach guide on thebasketballfix.com.
I hope all you people
Probably,
listening and watching are part of the fan zone, have subscribed for free, and partake in conversation, commenting on articles, writing shit yourselves in the fan forum. Get amongst it.
definitely.
That's what we
That's
like to
right. It's
see.
all about you, and it's going to be successful if everybody just gets involved. But yeah, I think maybe a good round to attack is when we're looking at, you got to make a move probably in round 14 when there's only 4 teams on a double game week, and it's Illawarra, Taipans, Brisbane, and Adelaide. So maybe you make sure that you're very stacked that week.
Yeah.
Because that might be a week where some of these big teams that have been strong through this other period start to fall a little bit behind or something like that. Pick your week and make sure that you're going to have a full lineup of 10 players with double game weeks.
All right. That's a pretty good not instruction, tip to follow for the next few weeks, and hopefully none of you that are out there are in such a bad position as what I am. Maybe a little bit higher. I think we had somebody in the comments that was at number 41 in the rankings, which is pretty amazing.
Get them on the show.
Yeah, I said you should be on here instead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Can have a next week's show. Number 44. Get in contact with us and join us on number 41. Number 44 can join as well if you're listening.
Exactly. The jig.
Definitely get involved, get in contact, and come in and let us know about your travels in this Supercoach adventure and how you've managed to be in the 41st or 44th spot. We would love to hear from you.
At this point of the episode, I would like to take a break, but I'm scared now that I haven't been producing from the back and know what else is happening. I'm scared to press any buttons. So we're just going to go straight into Dark Stubbles.
Yeah.
And you're going to give us a rundown about your captain choices, or who we think is maybe the best captain choices for round 11.
Yes. Well, I don't think you go past 3 names. We always give at least 3 options. And obviously, you're looking at your guards, the 2 absolute guns of Supercoach in Bryce Cotton and PJC. But how do you decide who you're going to pick, and should you throw in a curve ball into the mix? I just look straight at schedule when making this decision myself if I'm not looking at Josh's team. But you look at Cotton, and he is playing Illawarra and Adelaide this week, while PJC is up against Melbourne and Sydney. So how do you decide? Obviously, I think things are a little bit tougher for Parker Jackson Cartwright this week. Going up against Melbourne, who are traditionally a very, very strong defensive team. They've been scoring a lot of points lately, but with Chris Goulding going out, I think we can expect Melbourne to revert back to their defensive style of play and making sure that they're holding their opposition to the least amount of points as possible. And if they want to do that against New Zealand, they have to shut down Parker Jackson Cartwright. So you would expect him to maybe not have a low score, but a low score for his standards. And then going up against Sydney, who are the best defensive team in the competition and give up the least amount of points. And once again, the way that they do that this week is to force the ball into other people's hands, which could see Parker Jackson Cartwright lift his assists, obviously, in both of these games, because he's probably going to get doubled for the majority of it. So he has the difficult schedule. When it comes to Cotton, Illawarra can certainly get into a shootout. Adelaide are a bottom 2 defensive team in the NBL, also missing Montrezl Harrell, which hurts them a lot defensively because his impact and his plus minus in that team is at a disgusting level. I think it's over 100. It might even be 158-point turnaround or something crazy like that. So Cotton could certainly have another monster of a week. So that's where my captain sits at the moment. And if you want to go on a curveball, you could definitely look at Jack White. If you bring him into your team on this double game week, they play New Zealand, obviously having problems in their forward rotations with injuries. And then they go up against Brisbane. Not sure the status of Tyrell Harrison and all of that. So he could definitely have a big week. Brisbane leak the most amount of points of any team when it comes to pure scoring. And if Jack White can get on top of Tyrell Harrison in the rebounds, we could see a big chance for him to get double that week and get those bonus points. So, yeah, but I think it's a big call. If you need the risk, take the risk with a player maybe like Jack White. But I'm too afraid to take it off Bryce Cotton after dropping 59 points on the weekend.
I'll give you a bit of pushback from the comments here. A Flying Toilet says, this might sound like madness, but I kind of like the Harrison gamble for C this week. So almost exactly opposite to what you say there, that coming up against an Adelaide team that are missing some big stars, and we know their shortcomings in their depth without 40% of their starting unit. And then he also says away to Melbourne, and Harrison does well against true centres. So some pushback from the comment section. How do you respond to that?
I respond with an 18, a 21, and a 21. That's Tyrell Harrison's past 3 scores. The 18 was against Melbourne in round 8. And then Will Magnay, a true centre, when he played against Tassie, scored 21. And then Perth only scored 21. So they're his last 3 scores. So that has me a little bit wary that just be purely, 3 rounds ago, he could have definitely been a chance. I think we had him as captain when they had their first double game week, most of us. So, but the last 3 performances make you a little bit weary, and I'm not sure if he outscores Bryce Cotton. He could have a good couple of games, but when push comes to shove, I'm not sure he's outscoring Bryce Cotton this week.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you're at the top echelon here, you're not taking chances, are you? You're going for the guy that's consistently bringing you points. You don't need really ceilings to be up in the clouds, because your chance of you missing those points and falling further down the list is it's guys like me that need to take a Tyrell Harrison or a Jack White.
Yeah, and Will Magnay as the centre for Tasmania getting a lot of time on the court, only scored 25 against Adelaide last week. So without Montrezl Harrell.
Backing up with some stats, boy. This guy called Josh Higgins in the chat here says Harrison is all good, was only food poisoning. I know how I feel after food poisoning. I don't know if I'm saying I'm all good for a few weeks. I just need to eat some sour cream and I'm out for 2 weeks.
But was it like that food poisoning that you say when you don't want to go to work one week, or it could have just been that where you ring in sick? Oh, I've got food poisoning. I can't come in late.
It's when they got sport on.
He made the effort, I think, and even dressed, and then didn't play. So
it was all over social media. Tyrell Harrison suiting up to play, and then didn't get any court time. So they tricked us.
Yeah. So you never know. He just might have been chucking a sickie.
All right, Jez. We have been chatting for 50 minutes on this Supercoach session today. Considering I am in
a dud,
a world of trouble, I think that's a pretty good number. Give a shout out to all of our fans on all of the 10 concurrent viewers on YouTube and on Instagram. There are a few there. following, which is fantastic. As we've said during the program, a lot of content coming out on the basketballfix.com, articles, and then over on the fan zone where you can contribute with articles, podcasts, videos, artwork, anything, photos, photography. If you like taking photos at NBL matches, put them up on the site. Show people your art form and your skills.
TikTok. Throw up a TikTok if you want. Throw up a TikTok.
Yeah. And if you can't do anything, let us know. We'll open it. Make sure you can do it because we want to have the best and biggest fan forum on the internet for NBL. It's all about it. Giving a voice to everybody out there. What else you got to say, Jez?
Nothing. I'm all talked out. That's it.
It was different not having Josh on the feed today. I miss his
it was nice.
tones.
Oh yeah, we missed his sultry tones.
But it's the lag. I'm not missing the lag between Stockholm.
What, because Josh is a little bit slow, or what?
Yeah. Well, maybe there is a lag. I'm half a second ahead, and you're.
You're usually half a second ahead of me, mate.
You're half a second behind you, mate. All right.
Yeah. Oi.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the live stream today for NBL Supercoach sessions. You will see and hear the Beyond the Buzzer episode. If you're in Perth, there is a radio station. Josh, chuck it in the comments here where you can hear the Beyond the Buzzer, get your first-hand preview at that. Otherwise, it's up on Spotify at the Basketball Fix podcast from tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow, Wednesday. Yeah. And this is obviously live, and you'll be able to watch it back on YouTube at your pleasure, at the speed you want as well. If you want to hear us talking at 1.5 pace, then you can do it straight onto there, and it's all done. All right. Thanks for today. We hope, sincerely hope, you've all gotten your basketball
Look forward
fix.
to Josh joining us next week.
Coming back next week. I need to give my voice a rest. Thank you, and good night.
Clock at 10. Adams the off balance.